And last for this session is the local case study, Bruns Eco Village by Kelvin Daly. And Kelvin is the land steward and conceptualiser for the Bruns Eco Village. Please welcome Kelvin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I just give you guys the opportunity to have a bit of a stretch and stand up, and appreciate that you've been sitting for a long time. For those of you who feel to just, get something moving as we get low on our blood sugar. I'd like to thank Council and the organisers for asking us to speak on behalf of our project, our very exciting project. I absolutely love it, and I could talk underwater about it. Every cell in my body wants this to happen. I'd like to acknowledge our traditional owners, past, present and future, and also acknowledge our government representatives that are here today, municipal and state, and also Jenny from Belgian Council. They've shown considerable interest in our model and wondering how it could apply to their shire, so I welcome her interest here today. My talk today is on grassroots transformation of greenfield sites, and I had to make some notes so I wouldn't get too far off point. I'd like to start with the fact that shelter is a basic human right, and the commoditisation of shelter in the form of housing is causing harm to our shire community. The invention of the Great Australian Dream has taken that shelter and made it really difficult to attain. Oh, sorry about that. Our project has spent the last 3 years exploring a way to meet the rising demands and desperation for safe, affordable housing in an intentional community that provides or promotes safety and well-being. Our well-established working group has extensive experience in this area and has formulated a model that explores best practice and then empowers the potential end users in the development of the concept to practical completion, i.e. the end user is involved throughout the community building phase from design to completion. We are committed to sharing this model as it continues to evolve with others, and open to collaborating with like-minded government and non-government bodies. We believe that change is inevitable and positive change is preferable, and if our participants can arrive at a model providing a live, work and learn precinct and test it for its suitability with the surrounding community, it will make the decision-making government body's task of approval easier. We are proud to be an ungated community and have blurred lines between where Bruns Eco Village meets the broader community. Our desire to establish a lifelong learning school for the whole community is a testament to that commitment. We currently have over 125 participants in the Village Development Program, which is a 14-month journey that is the foundation training for living at Bruns Eco Village. We have released the date of our next training program, condensed into approximately a week, for February next year, and have over 20 people waiting to join, with many more expected. The agreements that the Bruns Eco Village Co-op will follow as the land manager, with the land held in a form of community land trust, will provide safe, secure, lifelong tenure for its future residents, with the rents paid going towards repaying loans to ethical investors supporting positive change through impact investment. The agreements on a housing cluster level of approximately equivalent of 12 homes plus a common house will be more reflective of the wants, needs, desires and values of that particular group. The 10 clusters will liaise with the co-op through proposed monthly meetings that share the feedback to the co-op through a trained representative. This should assist in maintaining healthy dialogue and encourage trained and highly skilled individuals to take an interest in the co-op's governance. The project's choice to partner with North Coast Community Housing and deliver for the first time 100% affordable housing, which is, for those who aren't familiar, 80% of market rate. So if the market rate is $500, then we will set the rents, the lifelong rents, at $400 and hold them in perpetuity with nothing but CPI increases. And with an openness to disability and a revised form of social housing, means that residents from all walks of life and ages will feel welcomed and valued. Our decision to inform and attract ethical investors through an expression of interest is to avoid the cap-in-hand approach to conventional lending that can make the project vulnerable to market volatility. We expect that our relationship with these ethical investors through quarterly site visits and other forms of communication will foster mutually beneficial relationships that extend beyond the demand for profit. We hope that by we hope that by the significant land cost savings of purchasing the rezoned land at approximately 1/3 of its market value, that the risk for investors is mitigated somewhat and the interest rate offered may be more in line with term deposit rates. We are aware of an ethical investor who is already working with Innova Energy and Quorum to provide funds for renewables at around term deposit rates. We have modelled the housing component of our project over 20 years at 3% interest, delivering 100% affordable housing in perpetuity, owned by a community co-op which holds the land in trust and shared this with North Coast Community Housing. We are confident that building costs can be reduced further through a number of measures, but have kept costs safely conservative. Currently, our village development program participants have formed 10 individual groups to deal with the 10 aspects of One Planet Living, which is an international framework, and our working group is informing them of the work that has been done in each sector and laying it on the table for them to take it further and then share their findings with the other interest groups within the village development program. This is an exciting and important part of the process where we are experiencing the growth and development of the group and the expression of its shared values through discussion, investigation and collaboration. We are committed to this project and our door is always open to assistance of any kind as we seek to innovate this space in challenging times. We thought it might be useful to say why the co-op rental model has been chosen. A prime criteria was to avoid real estate speculation, thus losing the goal of affordability. After exhaustive research, the only guaranteed way seemed to be taking individual ownership out of the equation, hence long-term rental with renters collectively owning the whole project. I met recently with Roth Wall to discuss models that are suitable, and I'd like to acknowledge both Roth Wall and Rob Doolan for their amazing work in this community of establishing over 100 intentional communities. And Roth informs me that he's found models that exist already that were purpose designed and built in the 80s for community co-ops to facilitate exactly this sort of thing. So that's heartening to know that we can follow a path rather than blaze one. There's also been made aware of the Build My Future program that Lismore Council has adopted recently with 6 projects in its shire where it's offering between $20,000 and $35,000 rebates for residents in those areas to encourage investment and regional development. And I think that's something that perhaps we should discuss as a shire and consider our position and what we can do to access some of that funding. Also like to acknowledge one thing that came up during the talks today was the mental health impacts, which often don't get included as a knock-on effect from rental stress. Basically, I'm trying to keep it pretty short so that I can take more questions, and I'm aware that you guys are just about to have lunch. I think the last 2 points I'd make would be the lifelong leases were chosen to ensure equal and fair treatment of all residents with provisions for dealing with antisocial behaviour. I spoke recently with Carl Fitzgerald, who's from an organisation called Prosper Australia down in Melbourne, and they're quite amazing with the work they've done. And he warned me about a company in the US called Blackstone Capital, which has bought up a lot of the obviously left behind or unpayable mortgages, and is now promising its investors over 20% returns as it buys up whole suburbs and then cranks up the rent basically based on access to services that were paid for by taxpayers. So I'd probably like to leave it there and take more questions if that works.
Questions for Kelvin? That was fabulous. I think we can give, yes. They're still with you, Kelvin, and they're hanging in there, and I'm sure they'll have lots of questions for Kelvin. And you are open for business, so they can rush off now, unlike
Okay.
Mike. That's right, he's not quite open for business. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Questions? Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering why you partnered with North Coast Community Housing. What was driving you to do that?
Well, we identified North Coast, I think, as the biggest Tier 1 service provider. I think I got that information right in the region. And what we're recognising is, because our goal is quite ambitious, that it's important to foster good relationships with organisations that share our values, but also have a connection to the state and federal body. If we try and navigate every branch on the tree, we will get nowhere. So it was identifying a provider, and at the moment they showed interest in the project because of a willingness to want to provide affordable housing. We visited their disability housing, beautiful, amazing delivery in Murwillumbah, and we just continue to discuss and reach out to them. So we haven't signed any contracts. That will be the role of the co-op in the future. So the working group is navigating that space, finding the options, presenting them to the interest groups who will develop into the cooperative.
Hello. Hi, Kelvin.
Jason.
My question is about describing affordability also in terms of reducing costs, for example, energy and transport, maybe opportunities in employment on location rather than somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. As I said, I just tried to keep it really brief. We have an extensive website. There's an enormous amount of information on there, and we've been working quite closely with Zero Emissions Byron to understand the work that they're trying to achieve, which we are totally in line with. We recognise the land with its both elevation, views, breezes, fertile land, north-facing, free draining, biodiversity, all these incredible elements can support this integrated form of living, but not in a gated community where other people feel like they're excluded or they're not good enough. So with access to public transport, we've got 7 buses running through there daily now on Golgams Road, and that will increase hopefully in the future. We're wanting to build a renewables precinct that invites those sustainable businesses to coalesce, to work together, so that we can do the stuff that we do really well here. We can value add our products, and we can consider, like a modular housing cooperative that will build maybe 26 tiny homes will be their first project, and those 26 tiny homes will support the families engaged in building the first 2 clusters as we build over the 5 years. And so that then leads into the potential of clearly accessing sustainable building materials and using best practice, employing local people, not exclusive just to the development but the broader community, so that there's an understanding, the willingness and desire to establish a school. And we're doing that at the moment by understanding what pedagogy the group would like to see. So we're exploring that, and once we do, we want to have a public meeting with the broader community to see what needs that would meet for them, and do that in a way that's engaging with council so that we don't duplicate the process. So that's our desire, is to engage, to inform, and to try and create we've got access to the NBN there for the fastest connection in Australia. So there seems to be a lot of forces that are coming together that want to manifest, and we're doing our best to navigate that. And we're moving slowly. We're deliberately moving slowly rather than reacting, because there's a lot of people watching this space, and we're trying to navigate it as best we can.
I think our time... we're going to lunch now. Then can we all thank Kelvin for his fascinating presentation? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Hal.